welcome to our Vineyard Politco blog and our next edition. Today is April 6th, and we are going to be interviewing Crystal Price. We welcome her in. Do a quick introduction. Crystal, tell us a little bit about yourself, and before we kind of get into the story of kind of what's happened with you. How long have you lived in Vineyard, and give us some background.
Okay, so we moved here in 2018. Loved it. Loved that it was a small town and that as far as we knew, it was supposed to stay that way, obviously with some growth, but not to what it's projected to be at this point. I've always paid attention to politics, but after 2020, when things started changing countrywide, and Vineyard was having the first election that we would be voting in, I started to pay attention locally, and there was one individual that I could not vote for, and that's what made me want to run for city council, and that didn't pan out, and here I am.
Well, thanks. And so what, you've been in the city for about 2-3 years then?
So since 2018, so it'll actually be 5 years in November.
Yeah.
Well,
for those that are not involved in the Vineyard Politco group, we started about 8 months ago, and one of the purposes and reasons for that was because there were some inconsistencies that were coming out of the Vineyard City offices, specifically the mayor and a few of the council members. And as I went public on the LRS loan problem and also the islands and the lack of documents, I just randomly started to get approached by various citizens with issues and concerns and saying, hey, not only is that happening, but this happened to me. And over and over again, feeling the weight on my shoulders and loving our city, I just didn't want this to happen. And so mostly all of these problems came or fell into or are happening because of a few of the reasons. And I wanted to document those before we get into Crystal's problem. As you guys know, here in Vineyard, we have a very dangerous media landscape within the city. As a young new city, we do not have a beat writer that covers our city, that is paid, that can do investigative reporting, that can go through documents, can verify what the council or the mayor does. And that's a very different precedence from an established city of our size. Usually there is somebody that's looking into this. And so a lot of these stories are not reported in the news. Second, I would say that there's a disturbing friendships that affect what limited reporting we do have out of the Daily Herald. In some of these stories, multiple citizens would reach out to the Daily Herald after a story was published by Julie or others, and they would report back saying that their voice was not heard, or they submitted to saying, hey, you didn't cover the other side of this story. And they were just marginalized, and only one story was being told. Other problems are that fake social media accounts or catfishing accounts are being set up by our mayor that are not real. They are fake accounts on Facebook and the Vineyard community group and other that spread misinformation. And we're tracking those profiles. When we started to talk about them, we've noticed that those profiles are not being used, but we're tracking new ones as well. And so it's kind of a creepy world. And then third, citizens started to approach us, not only Crystal, and you're going to listen to Crystal's story today, but other citizens have approached us about being asked by our mayor to ghostwrite, meaning that the mayor will be contacting them and saying, please post, are you on this media? Will you post this? And the mayor is drafting the entire content, sending it to a citizen to attack another citizen or to stand up for the mayor. And this is happening multiple people. And in fact, that citizen is not writing that particular thing. So we're going to cover one of those stories from Bristol today. And then the last one is using city employees to write the mayor's narrative. in many cases over the last 6 months, there's been questions about whether it be snow plowing or the safe walk Provo, where employees will contact us and they're like, if anybody talks negatively about the mayor, our employees are trotted out as examples and are asked to protect the mayor, to control that narrative. And then the last one that I don't have written on here, which is the story that, and I don't know which one you want to lead with, Crystal, first, maybe the ghostwriting or just the fake lottery / giveaway that you participated in.
I don't guess we could start with the ghostwriting since that happened before.
Okay. So tell me what happened. Like, set me the line. So, you're friends with the mayor. She reaches out.
Yeah. So I first met Julie because the neighborhood that I live in is right next to a high density area, and we had a lot of parking issues happening at night because this development didn't have, like most of them, didn't have sufficient parking availability to their tenants. So it would start to spill over into my neighborhood. Among, there's multiple issues happening, but the most important one that got Julie's attention was that I had a pair of males, maybe in their 20s, who were drunk and on my porch at 2 a.m, destroying property. And so I finally reached out to Julie and said, this is a big problem. My family is at risk. We're in danger. You need to do something about this. So she came to my house, met my neighbors. We started getting the ball rolling. So giving credit where credit is due, she did help us implement the parking program that I think is now accessible to the whole city if they want to apply for it and meet the requirements. But that's where I first met Julie. And in the process of constantly being in communication with her, we developed what I thought was a friendship. And she, we just, I guess, established this rapport where she even said to me at one point, oh, like, you're one of the most conservative people I know. You need to run for office because, and she's not going to like that I'm saying this, but she said, all of my staff is liberal and I'm the only conservative there. We need to get more people like you. And so here I am, this person who has never had any political aspirations, but I'm fed up with government all across all the levels of government that we have in our country. And so I thought, well, if I can't vote for this person, we still need another seat. So I'm just going to run for it. And in the process, Julie she says that she has a list of tyrants in the city. And one of these individuals was arguing with her online. And so she said, I need to start getting ready. You have the text. Oh, there it is. I need to start getting ready for my campaign. And I need to basically change the narrative that is being dispelled by these tyrants on social media. So would you be willing to copy and paste responses to them? And it's something that I'm embarrassed about. I really wish I hadn't done that, but not to justify myself, but back then I thought very differently of Julie. I was impressed that she kept the city open during the lockdown as much as possible. I was happy that we still were able to have that event at the Vineyard Grove Park. Like, those things really mattered to me. So my perspective or my perception of her was very different back then. And so I thought I was just helping someone who truly cared about the city be reelected. And now I see how wrong that was and how gullible I was and manipulated I was being. I was manipulated.
Let me just frame this. So the mayor reached out to you and said, could you be in her little group
Yeah.
of respondents, and your job in this little group. And I do want to point out there's 4 or 5 other women that have also come forward and said they were used to be these attack dogs in the group. And
Mhm.
and then you named, what were the groups? They were people like tyrants that were like, would speak out about a particular policy, I guess.
Yeah, she just said when I was running, she just said, I have a list of people in the city of tyrants that you need to be aware of. She never told me who they were, but when this particular conversation that is shown in this screenshot came up, she's like, oh, this is one of the people on my list. So, yeah, she just said that she was going to start recruiting runners to dispel false information that was being spread on social media about her and her intentions.
So I've spoken and interviewed Hector about it. He's heavily involved in the HOA, had some issues about parking or garbage or various things. He started to investigate some inconsistencies in Julie's statements or whatnot. Nothing personal, just, hey, I want to engage on a policy debate.
Yeah.
And randomly he posts up a comment that disagrees with Julie, and at that point you just get a message from Julie saying, hey, could you post this? And if I'm understanding you right, Julie drafted the entire,
oh yeah, I have the whole thing
word for word, and it's just basically as if she writes it as if it's her, or sorry, if it's as if it's you.
Well, I mean, that's what was very stupid of me to do, because it doesn't sound like me, but it was very literal. It was literally her text. I just copied and pasted.
Copy and paste it. And the other women say this too, that have been asked to do this. And so that way it makes it view like, hey, there is this group of people that actually back Julie or believe Julie, and that Hector would then quiet down and not understanding it. And from Hector's perspective, and maybe I'll interview him, he was like, I don't even know any of this. It's coming out of Bluefield. And he just kind of left it go. And I'm so turned around on not understanding what is the truth or whatnot. And then it just kind of went away, right?
Yeah.
And from my understanding, early on when I interviewed you, you didn't even really know what the text was. It was like, oh, post this, post that. And then it wasn't until like months later you came back and read it and you were like, oh my gosh, I'm being used.
Yeah. Well, and I guess to a fault, and maybe it could be a good thing that those are all her words. But I didn't even read what she said. I just regurgitated it. And I take full responsibility for that, but those are all of her words. None of those are mine.
Well, and I want to make sure on Vineyard Politico, whether you're pro-island, anti-island, pro-parking, anti-parking, Trump, Obama supporter, really doesn't matter. The whole goal is to kind of improve the process and the drama, and really improve and lift up the dialogue within our city. And when you have like ghostwriting happening, you don't even know who you're actually talking to online anymore, and how dangerous that is. And I think that's what was so compelling about this story, was I was like, holy cow, here's the mayor, the highest elected official in our city. How many people does she have doing this for? Now we know Tay Gunderson on the planning commission, because you have text messages saying, oh, I'll have Tay do it.
Yeah.
And you know of others as well. I do as well. I think also coming, you mentioned being newer to politics. I think it's scary, right? Of how young I mean, I don't fault you for coming in and doing it. In fact, I'm grateful you're willing to come forward and talk about it, because so many victims actually don't, and then it continues on. So that was one thing that I wanted to make sure. Is there anything else you wanted to add? This was kind of the
Yeah. Well, see, and here's the thing. I want to make it clear too. I don't care where people are on the political spectrum. Like, I don't care what party you align with. But I do care when the mayor is going around telling people like, hey, I like you because you're this way. And then she talks about other people. I have a problem with her lying and saying, oh, they're the problem. And then she goes to them and says, no, she's the problem because she's so conservative. And do you know what I mean? She's just, she's polarizing people, and she's manipulating people to get her agenda checked off.
Well, that was
That's
one
the
thing
problem that I have, where she's like, oh, well, my staff is this way and you're this way. That's why we need you in office, when I know that she's saying the opposite to those people.
right. So in certain circles, we have very on the other side of your side, very, hey, I am very left. I'm very on
And
the,
it doesn't matter. Like,
and they believe that, but then in this
yeah.
circle, you go, wow, these are two separate people. And I think that is really what increases the drama in a small city is we don't really know, like it, because of that shifting dynamic, it just creates a law. And we're just like, you know, one of the reasons for Vineyard Politico is just stop. Like,
Right.
are you? We can vote. It doesn't need to be.
Yeah, it's irrelevant really to the issues that Vineyard is facing. Well, except for, well, I won't even go there. But as a community, it's very damaging to have a mayor who is not transparent about who she is. That's the problem. And that she manipulates people and she lies to people. That's it.
Well, there's a lot of vulnerable because of no news source. There's really no way to document what she is or isn't. So, and I appreciate we're going to be documenting a lot of these stories. I work for a living, so I can't go through all of them. Yeah. But this one was really easy because of the screen messages to see how Julie sent them to you to read through them and get that. Now, the next story is actually more of a bombshell, and it's really quite creepy. 6 months before Julie was running for mayor, she posted on the Vineyard on various Vineyard community pages, and she set up a free women's run event that she was advertising for women to come to the park and to register for a free trip in Washington, D.C., right? Tell me a little bit, give me a little bit of history or background on that.
Okay, so now that I'm looking at the dates, I may be mistaken about which one happened first. We'd have to look at the dates between the ghostwriting and this event, just for the record. I may have had that wrong. This may have happened first, but regardless, again, because I'm in constant communication with Julie about the parking in my neighborhood, and it's me and maybe 2 other people who were in charge of that. I think I'm the only woman who's doing that for my neighborhood. I think that maybe that was the beginning of trying to groom me, I guess, to fall in step with her. So she just had me post in several groups about this event. She asked if people in my neighborhood would be interested, if I would tell them about it. And honestly, Jake, I think she handpicked me as the winner. I don't think it was random.
So I've heard this from many women where they come and say, I felt they use the word groomed, or they felt like I was selected random, not at random, but like as easy prey maybe or whatnot. They'll go through that. Now, at that time, on many pages, she posted a round trip ticket to Washington, D.C. with dinners, hotel, 3 days of a hotel. You're going to meet congressional delegation. You're going to go to the Library of Congress and other museum on this tour of people and hang at wine and dine with, you know, people. And not only that, but she even went into great depths into creating her own YouTube video, like showing it and displaying it, and even targeting, like what you say, targeting certain specific people to attend.
Yeah, just look at the list, the people she tagged right there.
Did you ever meet anyone from the actual women run organization?
No.
Never.
No.
So the day came, even coming up to the days prior to the event, Julie went to the newspaper and had again a friend, Janelle, post a article about the event. And in the event, all it does is highlight Julie's YouTube video. Again, and also some other elected officials that might be participating in it. And so you show up to the event that day. Kind of tell me a little bit about it.
Okay, it was at Vineyard Grove Park. There were probably about, I don't know, I want to say between 50 and 75 attendees. Most of the panel were, actually all of them, were women who had either run for a political seat or had been elected. And the whole objective of the event was to inspire you to run for office.
Which is a good positive thing. I mean, getting other women kind of go through and doing it, but it was just more of a, is this an actual like women's organization, or is this like a political campaign to gather women around to support Julie to run, right? What is the objectives of the group? So you show up that day, and at the end, you're awarded a certificate?
Yeah. So it didn't have my name on it, as you can see. She just gets up there and she's like, oh, Crystal's the winner. And let me tell you about Crystal. She explains what I did in my neighborhood about the parking, which, you know, tongue in cheek, this is because of the city mismanaging that we have these problems in my neighborhood. So it shouldn't even have to be something that I fix. But anyway, it wasn't just me, it was a group of us. But anyway, I get up there, she gives me the certificate, and then I don't hear from her, but I am in contact with her indirectly because she put me on the planning committee. Even though I told her I was done with politics, it just, you know, I ran because I felt like I had to. It's not something that it's like, I'm struggling for words, but it wasn't something that what's the word, was aspiring to do. I don't want to be a politician. So I told her, no, I'm done. And a few weeks after the election, she insisted that I be on the planning commission, and I told her, I don't know, let me think about it. And then she said, nope, I already put you on it. If you want to step down, you can always step down. And so being on the planning commission, she puts me in the youth city council advisor board, I guess. And so I'm in communication with Julie through other people about how to run that. And so let's see, this has the date wrong on the certificate. It was issued in 2021, but the day is correct. So from June to, let's say, November, which is after the election, I don't hear about the trip ever from her. I'm the one that has to initiate and say, hey, I'm planning on being in DC in July or in August. How do I get this? How do I redeem this? And there was never, it was always, well, let me ask the donors what is available, and nothing ever materialized.
So this is where it gets creepy. So, you know, I go to DC quite a bit. I know how hotels are in DC. I know travel. I know organizing something like that, especially I'm reading through the text messages, and I want to allow every one of the readers, we will be publishing this PDF so people can read through and see it. I think one of the disturbing things about it is that how she talked, she's acting, you know, this is a very expensive trip. She doesn't fulfill. She never talks about who the sponsor is. Nope. She never names any names. She keeps very vague, high level. She never reveals to you whoever is in this women-run organization. It's kept separate from it. as she talks about trips, she's talking about organizing this through that organization, and like as if there's some sort of travel partner, like
Right.
dates. I'm talking with this person. Fake, fake, fake. Like this person doesn't exist. Like as we're gonna later find out, they're just she's playing along with you. In
Yeah.
other texts, she starts to talk about being friends with Commissioner or Congressman Curtis and other, like you're going to be sitting down and having dinner with them in DC or meeting with them to talk about your issues as well. Was that to just play on your emotions, um,
Probably.
or just to kind of make the story feel real?
Either one would work.
Um, you know, also going through, she's talking about different dates and you're wanting to get out there to see the DC temple, which is,
Mhm.
you're going to be out there or whatnot. And then it kind of takes a turn where out of the blue, she starts to just say, hey, it's not available or whatever. And then she suggests to you the ability to just Venmo you $500. Is that when it was like, wait a
Yeah,
second?
well, if you go back to the previous right there, that middle screenshot, that's when that's when I felt like, okay, why do I feel like I'm begging for this? Like it shouldn't be this hard to to redeem this prize. And I feel like
Right.
I'm begging her, like she's doing me a favor where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be at the office picking up something, some keys for the government or for the city building that I need for my VYC thing. So if I'm going to be in the building, can I just stop by and pick up the check? Because she had said, oh, I'll have it ready for you. See, it's at the top. I'll have it at the office for you on Monday. Okay, I'll stop by.
Like the
And then
vineyard
she said,
office.
what was that?
Like the vineyard office, they would have
Yes,
this
the
check.
city office. And Catherine's her assistant. I'll have her notify you. Of course, she never doesn't. So
Right,
I just keep pressing. And I think at that point, she's just tired of me
right.
and wants me to go away. So
And then as it goes on, she's finally just saying, oh, flights are weird, timing, oh, it's so
mhm,
hard to get here. Out of the blue, this great person that was organizing everything and the congressman and all these people that are gonna go, and
mhm.
now just it's falling apart and she just offers a $500 voucher.
Yeah,
And she still doesn't, and you keep fighting her to say, just, I don't want your money.
yeah.
Can
I
you
would
give me the name
rather.
of the
I want to do things
organization?
by the book. It felt shady. So I said, I don't have a problem waiting for the sponsors to write me a check themselves. I even tell her, I don't want you to get in trouble. I can wait. So she just says, oh, no, it's fine. They'll pay me back. What's your Venmo? I'll Venmo it to you.
Right. Which immediately then signs off, holy cow, red flag, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does it then start to have your mind go back of like, wait a second, who did I correspond with? I mean, is that when you started to put things together?
Um, I think it took a few more weeks, but that was a big eye opener to me because it shouldn't be that hard. Something that is legitimate should not be that convoluted and inaccessible. I should have been able to book my own flights or talk to the sponsors themselves. Why is Julie having to be the middle person?
Or usually a sponsor will say their name, like, hey, Smith's a sponsor,
Yeah.
or this is
Yeah, or
brought
let
to
me
you
get you in
by
touch with
No
the
Tire.
sponsor and their person who coordinates all the trips. Why does it have to be Julie?
Right. Obviously, I've engaged with Julie, and I've had some bizarre stories talked. And so as I took on this and said, hey, I'll document, and you're gonna have to provide documents to say, I reached out to the organization. Morgan Lincati just barely took over the organization, and I want to defend them. Real Women Run, or they've changed names a little bit. At that time was not, this is their response, and she was awesome. Got on the phone and I said, hey, I got to tell you a doozy. I'm not attacking you. In fact, we love women running and engaging. but we also don't want women in Vineyard City to be taken advantage of, especially if they're advertised an all expense paid trip to go hang out with congressional delegation and meet them. How amazing that would be. She provided this on the record email, but also was able to clear out that the Real Women's Run organization has never sponsored trips. They do not even have an employee. They're very tiny. They weren't even housed within any real organization, and they were just barely moved into the Hinckley Institute of Politics. And even then, years down the road, they don't have a Washington D.C. taking women all expense paid trip like that. And so I got a response from them. What do you want, having gone through this kind of use, in which the mayor is engaging women throughout our city? We've had 10 to 15 women come forward and be like, I'm being used or manipulated. Why did you decide to go public and say, hey, I just don't want this to happen? I don't hate the mayor. I mean, you kept saying that, like, I don't hate this.
Yeah, I don't hate her. I'm very disappointed by what she's done and how she continues to hide behind people. I think that it's sad that it's getting to the point where it's just taking several testimonies of various types of personalities to make our community listen and believe us when we bring up these issues that the mayor refuses to be straightforward with. And I don't know, she has obviously a track record of lying to people and using people, and it goes way beyond little things like a Washington D.C. trip. Like, it's affecting a lot of people in our community. And I don't think, going back to what I was just saying, it's sad that it takes things like this to happen for people to pay attention and to see things for what they are. So I guess that would be my hope, is that people question what she says and ask for more accountability.
So on a few other stories that I'm working on for Vineyard Politco in the coming weeks I've asked them, did you find out if those documents actually exist, or have you spoken with that person? And Julie says they exist. And I go, that doesn't mean they are real. Have you met this person? Is that person you're talking to on social media? Have you met them, and do you know their values, or do you even know this is and until they went back and checked, they were like, I didn't know this wasn't a real person. Or and then they're finding out, hey, I am a victim of this. Well, thank you. This is very courageous. And this isn't a personal attack. This is to help our city government. And also, do you have any message? I mean, one of the sad or most troubling things is we do have some great women that are in the city council, yet many of these issues have been brought forth, whether it be, hey, the loan documents to the island, or hey, some inconsistencies in the HOA rules or claims that Julie makes. And that the accountability arm of our government is in the city council, yet that's probably one of the other scariest parts, is that there isn't, right?
Well, if she's doing this to regular citizens like me and the other women, I can guarantee you that she has the same tactics with her city council and city employees. So I hope that they know that they're not alone. And one of the things that I stand by is that the truth will always set you free.
Right.
And she shouldn't be controlling people and scaring them into falling out of step with her.
Right. How has this affected you, like, in your feeling in government? I mean, obviously at Vineyard, we're in a very small city where we need attendance. You gotta
Mhm.
keep your government accountable. You gotta ask hard questions.
Mhm.
How is this reciprocated to you personally, but also throughout the city? Has it had any lasting effect?
Um, yes, I'm trying to nail down exactly what it is. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about people who are speaking out against Julie. Um, that's the saddest thing because I feel like there's a kind of like a scarlet letter that we wear because we're speaking up against things that are happening in the city, and people are just listening to what the mayor puts on social media to shut us down. That's been the hardest thing because it feels like people think they know who I am just based off of my association with the mayor. I don't know. It's just it would be so different if she were to invite us all into city. Whoever cares about these issues, come to city council. Let's really have these conversations instead of gaslighting and shutting you down on social media. And even for the people who show up to city council meetings, you give them the time to speak. Don't kick them out of the room. That's what's sad, is that I feel like I'm scared. I'm scared of being censored. I'm scared. We're a very small community. Um, I'm not even, scared is not the right word. It just makes me sad that speaking up against malpractices of our government in our small community puts that scarlet letter on you, and people don't care to find out what is true because they might be afraid of being bullied by the mayor. I
Right.
don't know.
Well, I think one of the hard parts culturally, I mean, this past weekend we had general conference for the vast majority of our city being LDS, and we all want to be kind and we don't
Yeah.
want this to be personal and we want to
Mhm.
keep that. But it is difficult to be manipulated or lied to on various core issues and then not have a media that could help report it or to keep it on the same path.
Yeah.
And then also, I mean, one of the things that's really tough is our in our Vineyard community page being blocked if you come forward with truth of, hey, that's not true, I heard this, and then if it's contrary, oh, that's a negative, we're gonna block that. And it's like,
Mhm.
whoa, this person has this lady has an experience to share.
Mhm.
And it is intimidating because you don't want to be negative or full of drama. And I can sense that. I mean, I don't want to speak for all the other victims and all the other women that are reaching out, but it's like, who holds the microphone wins, and it's just kind of scary there. So,
It's just sad. But the more of us that start speaking up, I think it gives permission to other people who may have something to say or want to say something to speak up and rally together to
but I would
change how the city's being run.
I would also say for those that I've interviewed, this is definitely not an anti-Julie thing. I feel like maybe it's gone that way when a few information comes to light, like,
Mhm.
holy cow, you did this. I mean, and there's definitely some hard feelings,
Mhm.
but it's more of a, how do I stop this from ever happening?
Yeah.
Or, I'm talking to a fake Facebook account, or and I'm getting whatever their issue. There's a lot of various issues in
Mhm.
our city. So anyway, I want to end there, and we'll be posting the complete documents to this online, and also just trying to improve our city. The last thing I would say is the whole purpose of Vineyard Politico is to realize how frail our city is and to inspire people to say, hey, maybe I should be going to planning commission meetings or city
Yeah.
council, or maybe I should be reading the documents, or instead of seeing just a, hey, here's a trip to DC, get into it and say, hey, what is the organization and who's giving it? And because I think we've all been a little bit trusting on face value. And so
Mhm.
anyway,
Yeah.
thank you for coming in.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for all you
Appreciate
do. Okay,
Thanks,
thanks,
Crystal.
Jake. Bye.